Imagine becoming a millionaire at a time when being a woman already limited your opportunities and being a black woman made it even harder. Now imagine doing it, starting with almost nothing. That's the story of Madam C.J. Walker. And the truth is, most people have heard the title, but not the full story behind it. She is often called the first self-made black female millionaire in America. But what people don't always understand is how she got there. Because her journey didn't start with wealth, it started with struggle. She was born in 1867, just 2 years after the end of slavery in the United States. Her parents had been enslaved, and by the age of just 7 years old, she was already an orphan. Think about that. No safety net, no resources, no clear path forward. At an age where most children are just beginning to understand the world, she was already trying to survive in it. As she grew older, she worked as a washerwoman, earning very little money just to get by. Life was not easy, but even in those conditions, something about her mindset was different. She didn't just accept her situation, she started thinking about how to change it. And sometimes, the biggest breakthroughs don't come from comfort. They come from necessity. Because what she was about to create would not only change her life, it would create opportunities for thousands of other women. But at this point, no one could have imagined what she was about to build. And the problem that pushed her to take that first step was something very personal. At one point in her life, Madam C.J. Walker was dealing with something that many people wouldn't think twice about today: hair loss. But back then, it wasn't just a cosmetic issue. It was painful. It affected confidence. And there were very few safe or effective products available, especially for black women. She tried different remedies, home treatments, anything she could find, but nothing seemed to truly solve the problem. And that's when something shifted. Instead of continuing to search for a solution, she started thinking, what if I create one? Now remember, she wasn't a scientist. She didn't have formal training. She didn't have investors or a big company backing her. What she had was experience, determination, and a very real problem she needed to fix. So she began experimenting, testing different formulas, learning through trial and error, and slowly she developed a hair care solution that started to work. Not just for her, but for other women too. And that's when she realized something powerful. This wasn't just a personal solution anymore. This was an opportunity, because if she was experiencing this problem, there were thousands of other women going through the same thing, and they were all looking for answers. What started as a struggle was turning into something much bigger: a product, a purpose, and soon, a business. But what she was about to build next wasn't just about selling products. It was about creating a movement that would open doors for others. And that's where her story truly begins to change. What started as a personal solution was about to become something much bigger. Madam C.J. Walker didn't just create a product, she created a system. At first, she began selling her hair care products door to door. No big marketing team, no store shelves, no social media, just her product and her belief in what she had created. She would speak directly to women, show them how to use the product, explain the process, and most importantly, she connected with them. Because she wasn't just selling something, she understood their struggle, and that made people trust her. Word started to spread. More women began using her products. More people started asking about them. And slowly, her business began to grow. But this is where she did something different, something that changed everything. Instead of trying to build success alone, she started empowering other women to succeed with her. She began training black women to sell her products, teaching them not just what to sell, but how to build income for themselves, how to carry themselves with confidence, how to see themselves as businesswomen. These women became known as Walker agents. And this wasn't just a job. For many of them, this was their first real opportunity to earn money independently, to support their families, to build something of their own. And as her network grew, so did her impact. Madam C.J. Walker wasn't just building a business anymore. She was building a movement, a community of women who were learning how to create income in a time when opportunities were extremely limited. Her company expanded, her products reached more cities, and eventually, she built a factory. Think about that. A woman who once worked as a washerwoman now owned a manufacturing business. That alone is powerful, but she didn't stop there. She also created training programs, hosted conventions, and encouraged women to not only sell products, but to grow as leaders. This wasn't just about beauty, this was about independence, about ownership, about rewriting what was possible. And as her company continued to grow, so did her wealth. Madam C.J. Walker became one of the most successful, self-made women of her time. But what makes her story even more powerful is that she didn't just keep that success for herself. Because the next chapter of her journey was about something bigger than money. It was about impact, and how she chose to use her success would leave a legacy that went far beyond business. Her legacy continued to inspire generations long after. Women found strength in her story, courage in her triumphs, and hope in her legacy. Today, Madam C.J. Walker is not just remembered as a businesswoman, but as an icon of determination and empowerment. Remember, class, Madam Walker taught us that it's not just the challenges we face, but how we rise above them that defines our path. She showed the world that no barrier is too great when your dreams are bigger than your fears. By the time Madam C.J. Walker reached the height of her success, she had already done something most people thought was impossible. She built wealth from nothing. She created opportunities for herself and for thousands of other women. But what makes her story even more powerful is what she chose to do next. Because for her, success wasn't just about money, it was about impact. At a time when many Black communities were facing limited access to resources, education, and opportunities, Madam C.J. Walker began using her wealth to support causes that mattered. She donated to schools. She supported organizations. She gave back to communities that were often overlooked. And she didn't do it quietly. She spoke about it. She encouraged others to do the same because she understood something important. Real success isn't just about what you build for yourself. It's about what you create for others. She also became involved in social issues. She used her voice to speak on topics affecting Black Americans during that time, and that was significant because she wasn't just a businesswoman. She was becoming a leader, someone people looked up to, someone who represented what was possible. And as her influence grew, so did her platform. She hosted events and conventions that brought people together. She created spaces where ideas could be shared, where people could connect, where women could see themselves not just as workers, but as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as individuals with potential far beyond what society expected from them. And then there was her home, Villa Lawaro, a mansion built in New York. But it wasn't just a symbol of wealth. It was a statement that said, this is possible, that someone who started with almost nothing could build something extraordinary and invite others into that vision. Her life became proof that success didn't have to look the way people expected, that barriers could be challenged, that limits could be broken. But even with everything she achieved, her story didn't always receive the recognition it deserved, because like many other, her name wasn't always placed at the center of history. And yet, her impact was everywhere, in the lives she changed, in the opportunities she created, in the doors she helped open for generations to come. Because what she built was bigger than business. It was a foundation, and the legacy she was creating was still unfolding. Madam C.J. Walker's story isn't just about becoming a millionaire. It's about what she made possible. Think about where she started, an orphan at a young age, working long hours just to survive, living in a world that didn't expect her to succeed. And yet, she built something that changed not only her life, but the lives of thousands of women who came after her. She created opportunities where there were none. She turned struggle into purpose, and she proved that success doesn't come from perfect conditions. It comes from vision, persistence, and belief. But here's the part that matters most. Her story is still relevant today, because even now, there are people out there with ideas, with potential, with something inside them that could change their life. But they're waiting for the right time, waiting for the right resources, waiting for permission. Madam C.J. Walker didn't wait. She started with what she had, and she built from there. That's what makes her story powerful. Not just what she achieved, but how she achieved it, and why it still matters. Because history isn't just about the past. It's about the lessons we carry forward. So if this is your first time hearing her story, just know this. What she built started with one decision: to try. If stories like this matter to you, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Untold Black History, and share it so more people can learn the stories they were never taught. And I want to hear from you. What's something you've been thinking about starting, but haven't yet? Because sometimes all it takes is that first step.